Members will come to the floor. Chairman Hatchett's primed, locked, and loaded, ready to go. Mr. Clerk, how about ring the bell, please? House will come to order. We'll get back on to the rules calendar. House can come to order. Members will please take your seats. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to House Bill 916?
House Bill 916 by Representative Burns, the 159th, Jones, and the 47th, abstration to the 104th, and Hatchett to the 155th, to be entitled an act to make and provide appropriations for the state fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2024, and ending June 30th, 2025, and to make and provide such appropriations for the operation of the state government and its departments, boards, and bureaus. This bill having referred to the Committee on Appropriations, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Ladies and gentlemen of the House, the chair resolves the House into a committee of the whole House for the purpose of considering House Bill 916, the General Appropriations Bill. The chair appoints the gentleman of the 104th House District, Majority Leader Estration, as chairman to preside over the committee of the whole. Mr. Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The chair recognizes the gentleman from the 155th District, Chairman Matt Hatchett, to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. You know, earlier today there was a lot of talk about queens and festivals, and I happen to live where we have a huge festival the whole month of March. It's the St. Patrick's Festival. And I was trying to figure out what I could say when all that was going on, and I couldn't say I was a queen, but I've come up with, just call me the leprechaun. I should have had my green jacket today. Today I present House Bill 916, the fiscal year 2025 budget, and is set by a revenue estimate of $36.1 billion. An increase of $3.6 billion or 11.3% over the fiscal year 2024 original budget. The amended budget is used to make one-time adjustments. Some are housekeeping items and others are workload adjustments. But these past two budget cycles, as we previously discussed, have provided unprecedented opportunities to make one-time strategic investments in our state's infrastructure, be it technology projects or capital needs. This base budget provides the opportunity to make impactful and permanent changes in the state budget and policy. The budget, as recommended by the governor, did just that. It provided a good foundation, and we support and thank the governor for including a number of items that were priorities of the General Assembly that we would not be able to fund on our own. You'll see throughout the document that many of the House priorities we included in the budget last year are repeated in fiscal 2025 budget. That's because these priorities reflect the needs of Georgians. We know what the needs are because our constituents, friends, and neighbors tell us at church, the grocery store, at community events, over the phone, and by email. The needs of Georgians haven't changed in the last year, so neither have our priorities. The budget is how we tell them we hear you. We really and truly have one job at this state capitol, and that is to be the appropriators. If we can't do that, then why are we here? There are a number of good items in this budget, 1,170 lines of changes to be exact. Sometimes when you get caught in the weeds of each line item, you miss the powerful cumulative effect of the good in this document. So let me give you the highlights. You don't have to sit through very many budget hearings to understand that agency attrition is a problem. As I mentioned in my remarks during the amended budget, the slow and steady increases in state salary, both across the board and targeted increases in state salary in our most critical positions, is moving the needle on state employee recruitment and retention. The governor's budget includes, and the House agrees, with over $250 million to provide state employees with a 4% pay raise. Thank you. The governor's budget also includes additional $3,000 salary adjustments for law enforcement and correctional officers above the 4%, long a priority of this House. This brings the new starting salary to nearly $45,000 for correctional officers and $64,000 for a state trooper. The budget also includes targeted salary adjustments for other high turnover or difficult to fill positions, including for caseworkers, child welfare, child support, and elder abuse at the Department of Human Services, nurses and compliance specialists who license and inspect our long-term care facilities, and consumer protection workers at the Department of Ag who inspect and ensure the safety of our food, and crime lab scientists and technicians and regional investigative personnel at the GBI working to process evidence and bring justice to crime victims. Justice cannot be served if there is not an adequate and seasoned supply of prosecuting attorneys to successfully bring charges against those who break the laws of this state and seek to harm others. Over the course of several meetings, we've been stunned by the testimony of the Prosecuting Attorneys Council. Statewide, the vacancy rate for assistant district attorneys, or ADAs, is 10%. But a further look into the data reveals that 11 circuits currently have a vacancy rate greater than 25%, with one circuit currently with a vacancy rate of 63%, with only 3 of 8 positions filled. The 5-year average turnover is nearly 25%. There may be a combination of factors contributing to these statistics, including leadership and workload, but there's no doubt with a starting salary of $58,000, compensation is absolutely a factor. To move the needle and bring stability to DA's offices across the state, PAC has requested, and the House has fully funded their request for $15.2 million to lift the whole salary schedule and bring the starting salary for ADAs to a more competitive $71,000. To be clear, this is an adjustment is not for the district attorneys themselves, but for the ADAs who are involved in the day-to-day prosecution. The House also funds $2.5 million for targeted salary adjustments to address recruitment and retention issues for staff and attorneys at the Supreme Court and Court of Appeals, recognizing that these courts have a constitutional obligation to complete their docket within the term and cannot do so without adequate support and professional staff. The House also funds $3.2 million for the Department of Law to fully implement a pay raise adjustment initiated last year to stabilize attorney turnover within that department. You've already debated and approved House Bill 947 to change the structure of judicial compensation for Superior Court judges, appellate judges, and the justices of the Georgia Supreme Court. This budget provides $10.6 million to phase in the salary increase over a 2-year period. The budget also includes a $2,500 pay increase for teachers. Since the beginning of this administration, the base teacher salary will have increased by nearly $10,000, and Georgia continues to dominate the Southeast in the average teacher salary. Continuing on into education, in addition to the more than $380 million in regular formula growth for QBE and equalization, the House wholeheartedly supports the governor's unprecedented investments in pupil transportation and school security. With QBE fully funded, our attention now turns to the other formula It is a partnership between the state and local school systems that has historically been underfunded until now. This budget includes an infusion of $204 million to reflect current bus count and mileage figures, not updated in more than a decade, and an increase in operating to 40% of cost. This investment more than doubles the state spending for people transportation and benefits all systems, rural and urban, small and large. We all know that a lot has changed since many of us were in school. And there's nothing that's more important than the safety of the children who are entrusted to our care. That's why over the past several years, the General Assembly has made direct investments to enhance the safety and security of our public school buildings. $85 million in one-time appropriations since fiscal year 2019. But no money has been appropriated for ongoing security needs until now. Recognizing that many school systems have their own police department and others contract with city or county law enforcement agencies for services, that expense has solely been borne by local school systems. The state provides $104 million to provide a permanent funding stream of $45,000 per school to enhance school security services and personnel. Last year, this body attempted to fund something new: the student share of the cost of reduced price breakfast and lunch. While the state money for this endeavor didn't make it across the finish line, the Department of Education was able to use one-time federal funds to meet this expense for children, and I thank the superintendent and the board for making that happen. Not much has changed since last year. Food prices are still high, and kids are still not able to learn if they're hungry. I heard from many of you last year, and this item was one of the items you were most proud of that we funded in the budget. Many of you personally shared with me the difference this funding makes in your communities. And that's why the House version of the budget again includes $6.3 million in the Department of Education budget to cover the cost of breakfast and lunch for reduced price students. This is expected to cover the cost of more than 15 million meals for students. This budget makes a huge investment in the healthcare infrastructure of our state. And I want to thank the governor for leading the way with $146 million for full funding of 3 provider rate studies for the now comp waiver, independent care, and elderly disabled waivers, and behavioral health provider rate adjustments. Adequately compensating providers ensures access to care. That's why the House funds $27 million in Medicaid provider rate adjustments, including the Georgia Pediatric Program, or GAP, speech therapists, audiologists, physical therapists and occupational therapists, primary care physicians and obstetricians, and optometrists, to name a few. The House also provides $9.6 million to include basic dental care as a covered service for the Medicaid population. I know this initiative is important to many of you who are determined to make this coverage a reality for your constituents. This House fully supports the governor's recommendation of $1.5 million in the Department of Community Health for new positions to monitor, evaluate, and improve the care management organization oversight. This will be one of the things that we will remember we have done. Mental health continues to be a priority of this House, and that's reflected in this budget with $2 million dedicated to the APEX program to expand mental health services in schools, $3.2 million for jail-based competency restoration programs in Dodge and Cobb counties, and $3.2 million in DBHDD to operationalize a new crisis stabilization unit in Macon designed to support adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Georgia cannot receive the behavioral health resources they need without an adequate network of providers. That's why this House budget includes $1.5 million to establish the David Ralston Center for Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities at the University of Georgia. This center will offer degrees to boost the pipeline of professionals needed to work in behavioral health and serve as a clearinghouse for research and best practices. Continuing in human services, the House provides $8.9 million for a 3% provider increase for child caring institutions, child placing agencies, foster parents, and relative caregivers to recognize the rising cost of providing this service. Additionally, $1 million is provided for additional supports for the court-appointed special advocates, or CASA, and $1.2 million for Georgia Family Connections. We've all heard a lot over the past several years about the VOCA cliff. Well, let me be clear about something. This budget does not backfill the VOCA funds. What this budget does is use state money to fund more than $20.4 million in state-mandated services and expectations for domestic violence shelters, sexual assault centers, and child advocacy centers, recognizing the vital and needed services that they provide to Georgians who are in their most vulnerable place. The House also provides $2.7 million to support the operations of the Georgia Crime Victims Emergency Fund. The fund should be used for just that, to offset the cost of services needed to help victims of crimes recover and move forward. There's been a lot of talk this session about housing. There are several House changes that relate to housing, homelessness, and needed supports that span across several agencies and policy areas in this budget. $1 million in the Department of Community Affairs to create the Accountable Housing Initiative. This new initiative will provide funds for organizations that help homeless individuals obtain stable, immediate housing in the short term in order to achieve affordable housing in the long term. This funding is in addition to the $3.8 million the House agreed with the governor to fund in the State Housing Trust Fund to pursue new federal grant opportunities for homelessness services, and $6 million in One Georgia to continue the workforce housing program. In DBHDD, $2.9 million is provided to support Georgians experiencing homelessness by funding over 300 new housing voucher slots. $425,000 is provided for behavioral health and support services for those experiencing homelessness, and $121,250 for the Department of Veterans Services to hire a coordinator to work with veterans experiencing homelessness. All of this funding, which totals around $14 million, is in addition to the $2.9 million added in the amended budget for the State Housing Trust Fund to leverage federal funds for the Youth Homelessness Demonstration Program. In closing, I'd like to offer thanks to all those that make this budget happen. Christine Murdoch and her entire House Budget and Research team. They spend countless hours during session and after session gathering, as our speaker likes to say, the facts on our many agencies and budget requests. To the Appropriations Committee Vice Chairs, thank you for digging deep to bring great items forward for consideration into this document. And I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge Representatives Perkle and Houston for their many years of support to the budget. And I'm going to break away from protocol. Clay, I think you understand the transportation budget better than anyone in the state. And Miss Penny, no one, and I mean no one, has more love for the people of this state than you, and it shows every day as you dig down on issues for all Georgians. You are truly a conservative leader with a heart of gold. Thank you, Mr. Leader, and I will try to answer any questions that may be out there, and I stress try.
All right. Mr. Chairman, do you yield for questions?
Yes, sir.
Chair recognizes Chairwoman Darlene Taylor for a question.
Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it not true that this budget includes grant funding for 3 needed FQHCs throughout the state?
Yes, that is correct.
Does the gentleman further yield?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it not true that we included increase for Medicaid reimbursement for very needed physicians and therapists and things throughout the state? And it's going to help us to increase the number of doctors and providers in the area of Medicaid?
Yes, it is, and it's a known fact that we constantly are losing providers because we don't reimburse them enough.
And do you further yield?
Yes.
And finally, doesn't this budget help us grow our own doctors throughout the state through expanding our residency programs in all of Georgia and especially rural Georgia?
It does. It helps expand residency programs in rural Georgia. Thank you. Thank you.
Do you yield for further questions?
Yes, sir.
Chair recognizes Representative Kennard for a question.
Thank you. Do you yield?
Yes, sir.
Thank you for your work on the budget. Is it true that the millions of dollars that we're appropriating to the State Housing Trust Fund is the trust fund we just created last week? Is that the same entity?
The state, Georgia House, the trust fund has not just been created.
Okay.
It gets federal funds.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Chair recognizes Chairwoman Dempsey for a question.
Does the gentleman yield?
Yes.
Chairman Hatchett, is it not true that not only Appropriation Committee members and many other members as well spent many hours listening patiently to so many requests this year?
Yes.
Does the gentleman
Many.
further yield?
Yes.
Is it not true that this reflects a budget written with fidelity that, as our morning started out with a message from the chaplain, is focused on people, real people with real needs, and shows how much the House and each of us who are privileged to be in the House care?
Thank you, Chair Lady Dempsey. It has truly been made very apparent to me over the last 2 years of the need throughout this state and for many people across the state. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, do you yield for further questions?
Yes, sir. I'll take a couple more.
Chair recognizes the whip of the minority party, Representative Part, for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Hatchett, will you yield for a few questions?
Define a few. No.
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
Thank you, sir. Is it not true this budget includes $9.6 million to increase access to dental services for Georgians and $2 million to increase access to mental health services in schools?
Yes.
Is it not further true that this budget includes a $2,500 salary increase or a bonus for pre-K teachers, along with K through 12 public education teachers?
Yes, it does, and it, right now, I think our average teacher pay is around $67,000, and this will actually take the average teacher pay to just under $70,000 a year,
Thank you, sir.
leading the Southeast and many other states in the union.
Does the gentleman yield for a few more questions?
Yes, sir.
Is it not true that this budget fully funds a HOPE scholarship and the HOPE grant and includes $100 million for school security?
Yes.
Is it not further true this budget includes a 4% cost of living increase for approximately 300,000 state employees, along with $2.4 billion for transportation infrastructure?
I agree with you 100%. You know of what you speak.
Thank you, sir. My final
You've
question.
looked at the budget. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you for the time to review. Is it not for, and this will be my last question. I appreciate
This one you're
time.
going to try to stump me on. Okay,
No,
go
sir.
ahead.
We'll see. We'll see. Is it not true that I greatly appreciate your hard work, along with the hard work of Christine Murdoch in the House Budget Office, and that I look forward to voting yes to this budget?
Thank you, and I appreciate your support.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Leader, with that, I will yield the well and ask for everyone's favorable consideration of HB 916.
The chairman has yielded the well. I want to join in thanks to you, Chairman Hatchett, for your hard work on this budget. I want to thank Christine Murdoch, head of the House Budget and Research Office, as well as the entire staff for your outstanding work on the 2025 FY budget. At this time, the chair recognizes Chairman Hatchett for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that House Bill 916 do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Representative Clay Perkle.
I'd like to second that motion.
Representative Perkle has seconded the motion. At this time, we'll call the question on House Bill 916. All in favor will signify by saying aye. All opposed will say no. The ayes have it, and House Bill 916 passes by committee substitute. The chair recognizes the gentleman from the 155th District, Chairman Hatchett.
Mr. Chair, as Chairman of the Committee of the Whole House, you're instructed to report the action of the Committee of the Whole House to the House.
Majority Leader Estration is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Committee of the Whole House has had under consideration House Bill 916 and has instructed me as its chairman to report the same back to the House with the recommendation that House Bill 916 do pass by committee substitute.
The report of the chairman of the Committee of the Whole House is received. The Committee of the Whole House has had under consideration House Bill 916 and has reported the same back to the House with the recommendation that House Bill 916 do pass by committee substitute. The Committee of the Whole House is hereby dissolved. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? For what purpose does Chairman Wiedauer rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, is it not true that this budget includes just over $2.1 million to revamp the licensure process in the state of Georgia, bringing much relief to all licensed professionals across the state?
I think I read that in there. Late night when I couldn't sleep. But yes, sir, it does, and that's a great add to the budget. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For what purpose does Representative Becky Evans rise?
Parliamentary inquiry?
State your inquiry.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Isn't it true that I'm very excited about passing this budget, especially for all the good funding for education?
I know the lady certainly has worked on the budget, and I appreciate her work, and I know she's excited.
Right. And my follow-up question, Mr. Speaker. I'm also excited about the $9.5 million in lottery funds for pre-K to take the class size from 22 to 20. But isn't it also true, Mr. Speaker, that I hope that this body will be able to give the salary increase to pre-K teachers, which was included in the House's recommendation, and I do not believe the salary increase for the pre-K teachers was included in this budget. Isn't that true, Mr. Speaker?
I'm sure the lady has read this budget very keenly, and we've addressed some of those issues there. But, you know, we have more to do, but we've made a great start.
That's
Thank you for your
exactly right.
question.
Thank you.
For what purpose does Representative Barnes rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Is it not true that when kids are fed, futures are nourished, so that $6.3 million in the budget will feed more of our children in the school system?
I have to agree with the lady. That's strong, thanks to this House. For what purpose does Representative Lisa Campbell rise?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Isn't it true that I'm very excited to support this budget, and I'm very proud of the work that Speaker Pro Tem Jan Jones and her committee and your support did this summer to increase coverage for child care and to improve quality early learning? And is it not also true that I look forward to working with all of you to continue to grow the funding to cover the $73 million gap that we have in our CAPS program this year due to COVID funding ending?
I'm sure the lady knows of what she speaks, and I can't say I don't disagree with you. We have some work to do, but we've done great work, and thanks for all the members pulling together. For what purpose does Representative Frazier rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, isn't it not true that the $900,000 that has been added to the appropriation budget is for the hematologist for the Sickle Cell Foundation, which is much needed because many of our sickle cell patients do not have a place to go to get service since WellStar closed?
I'm sure the lady knows of what she speaks. She's been an advocate, and we appreciate her advocacy. You've done great work. Now, have all members voted? If so, Mr. Clerk, will you lock the machine? On the passage of House Bill 916, the yeas are 172, the nay is 1. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Congratulations, Mr. Chairman. Congratulations, Mr. Chairman, and congratulations, staff. Great work. Congratulations, House. For what purpose does Chairman Hatchett rise?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To make a motion,
State your motion.
I move that House Bill 916 be immediately transmitted to the Senate.
Representative Hatchett moves that House Bill 916 be immediately transmitted to the Senate. Is there objection? Hearing none, it is so ordered. Let's do it again. Mr. Chairman, committee sub-chairs, staff, this is an awesome budget that addresses the needs of Georgians from every walk of life, from every part of Georgia. Thank you to everyone who voted affirmatively on this bill. It's good to see us all work together and find some areas we can agree on that benefits the people we care so much about. So I'm going to applaud y'all. Y'all don't need to be applauding. Makes me proud to be a member of the House. Thank you. We'll move on to afternoon orders. Chair Lady Darlene Taylor is recognized for an afternoon order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I want to share a brief history of an outstanding woman in American history, Sandra Day O'Connor. She was an American attorney, politician, and jurist who served on the U.S. Supreme Court from 1981 to 2006. O'Connor was nominated by President Ronald Reagan and became the first woman to serve as a U.S. Supreme Court justice. She was confirmed unanimously. Before her tenure on the court, she was an Arizona state judge and earlier an elected legislator in Arizona, serving as the first female majority leader in a state senate. During her term on the court, she was known for her well-researched opinions. O'Connor was regarded among the most powerful women in the world. After retiring, Justice O'Connor succeeded Henry Kissinger as the Chancellor of William and Mary College. She remained an active advocate for judicial justice and the rule of law. In recognition of her lifetime accomplishments, President Obama awarded Justice O'Connor the nation's highest civil honor, the Presidential Medal of Freedom. I would like to leave you with some words of wisdom from her. Quote, "Do the best you can in every task, no matter how unimportant it may seem at the time." Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield the well.
Thank you, Chair Lady. Representative Hutchinson is recognized for an afternoon order. The lady has the well.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good afternoon, colleagues. Today I'd like to introduce you to a sibling group, Louis, Lucian, Leland, and Liliana. Louis is friendly, happy-go-lucky, fun-loving, and eager to engage. Lucian is quiet, sweet, loving boy who enjoys school. Leland, who is 8, is affectionate, fun-loving, also enjoys schools. And Liliana, who is 5, is a very special girl who loves learning and attending preschool. When I look at this group of kids, I just think about what they've gone through in their short lifetime. Please remember all of the children we have available for adoption in Georgia and let your friends know that we have this adorable, adorable group that needs a forever home. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield the well.
Representative Scott Hilton is recognized for an afternoon order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This past Sunday, the 28-3 Wesleyan School Lady Wolves defeated Carver Columbus to advance to the 3A state championship game this Friday at 1 p.m. in Macon. Please join me in wishing good luck to our headmaster, Chris Cleveland, head coach Ellen Paroli, and our entire Lady Wolves basketball team as they compete against the #1 seed, Hebron Christian Academy. Ladies, let's bring home that trophy. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative. Okay, we have a great announcement that concerns this House and the great athletic ability that this House has and the steady nerves, and I'm not sure if they can keep a scorecard, but nobody caught them. Got some golfers here. Chairman Powell and his team is recognized to tell us about Boy, what an awesome trophy. Chairman Powell.
Can you hold it up? Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, we stand here today to be proud to present to this House the Governor's Cup Trophy for the annual golf tournament between the House, the lower body of the Senate, the Governor's office, and the lobbyists or the business people of the state of Georgia. This tournament was started back in the mid-90s, and of course you'll be happy to know that your House teams have predominantly won most years. Now there's a few years that there was a little cheating that went on. You know, I continue to tell people about golf, what a great character builder it is if you play by the rules. But a few times the Senate's won, and it's questionable because if you lose a ball, you're supposed to add a stroke, not take one off. This past year, it was played again down at the Shellman's Bluff course, and Chairman DeLoach's course, of course. And we were victorious in that at a hard-fought struggle. The Senate, certain members of the Senate did make a considerable wager to the House team, and some people on the House team, predominantly the captain, took that wager, and they still hadn't paid that bet as best I can tell. But, you know, that's all right. They've got a little bit of time before I come to will, and I really talk about folks who don't pay debts or who might cheat at the game of golf. So I would tell you, for each and every member of this House, we've had dance-off contests, we've had basketball tournaments of a good friendly nature, but we take this pretty serious about golf, because golf is one of those sports that builds character. We have a golfing industry in this state that brings in about $6 billion plus. Not to say or forget that we have two of the most famous golf facilities in the whole world, Augusta National being one and East Lake being another. And Georgia is a golfing state. So on behalf of this team, go House.
We'll put you on our shoulder. We don't want to hurt ourselves.
For the members of the House, there's a resolution here to be signed creating Golf Day I believe it's next week or week after. And remember how much golf contributes to our economy, not including getting people out of the way from doing stupid things while they're hitting the golf ball.
Congratulations, golf team. Mr. Chairman, if you will just give us the names of those unpaid waivers, those unpaid bets, we'll hold their bills. They certainly won't move forward. That's awesome, Mr. Chairman. Representative Gladney, talking about Augusta, is represented to speak to an afternoon order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In honor of Women's Day, Women's History Day, Women's History Month, honoring Ambassador Dr. Sharon Brown, who joins us today accompanied by her husband, Dr. L.C. Miles, both of Augusta. We celebrate her today in recognition of women's history. She's not only a survivor of her own firsthand horrific, dark experience of human trafficking and exploitation, but she has bravely turned that tragic circumstance into an empowering opportunity to inspire others through her humanitarian work at the United States Office of Victims of Crime and Center for Human Trafficking, among many, many other organizations that the Speaker would not allow me to have time to say them all. Her book and life story can be found, How I Found the Power of My Voice, in the Library of Congress. Please stand, recognize, and honor Ambassador Dr. Sharon Brown. Thank you so much. We will honor you with this resolution signed by my colleagues who support that struggle for women. Thank you so much for being here today. You can meet us in the Annie Room for a picture.
Thank you for
Speaker,
being
I
here.
yield the well.
The lady yields well. Thank you, Dr. Brown. Thank you for being here with us. Chair Lady Mathiak and Rotary friends. Rotarians, come to the well. Ladies recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today, we get to honor Griffin Rotary's 100th birthday today, and we're so proud of our whole team and our whole club and all the things that they've done. Thank you, Mr. Well, wait, let's get this picture first. All my Rotarians, yes. Yes, come on, yes. It's happy birthday for Griffin today. Thank you, sir. And I yield the well.
The dean's not measuring up as a photographer. He's a little slow. I know where she is. That concludes our afternoon orders. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to a group of privileged resolutions?
Recognizing and commending the Milton Eagles football team for winning the 2023 GHSA 7A State Football Championship. Commending the Milton Lady Eagles lacrosse team for winning the 2023 GHSA 7A Girls Lacrosse State Championship. Recognizing and commending the Milton Eagles boys golf team for winning the 2023 GHSA 7A Boys Golf State Championship. Recognizing and commending Trail Life USA, honoring and commending American Heritage Girls, recognizing and commending Major Tom Carton, and commending the Milton High School Theater Company for winning the 2023 GHSA 7A One-Act Play State Championship. And for other purposes, that completes the reading of the privilege resolutions.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Is there any objection to adopting the privileged resolutions? The chair here is none. The resolutions are adopted. We have some announcements, but I'm going to do it backwards. I'm going to do birthdays first. Representative David Jenkins has a birthday today. Representative Jenkins. Life's about timing. No, keep going. Keep going. It's also Representative Mary Margaret Oliver's birthday. Perfect timing. She's down front. Happy birthday to both of you. We have some announcements. Chairman Yerter, recognized for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Code revision will have a meeting at 8:30 in the morning, 132 Capitol, so please be there.
Chairman Hawkins, recognized for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Chair on Health will meet tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock in CAP 403. 8 a.m. and 403. Thank you.
Representative Panich, recognized for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Tomorrow there will be a joint House and Senate Fulton delegation meeting at noon in CLOB 307. CLOB 307 noon tomorrow. Thank you.
Thanks to the lady. Chairman Gunther is recognized for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Judiciary will meet this afternoon at 2:30. We have 4 bills on the calendar. It won't take very long. And for those of you on the Judiciary Committee that want to plan ahead, upon adjournment tomorrow, we're going to do our committee photo here in the chamber. Thank you.
Chair Lady Ballinger is recognized for an announcement. Chair Lady Ballinger.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Juvenile Justice Committee will meet upon the adjournment of Budget and Fiscal Affairs Oversight. They have 6:06 right before we do. As soon as they're finished, then we will, and as soon as we have a quorum, we will go ahead and start our meeting for budget for juvenile justice. And we have 4 Senate bills that we need to perfect. So look forward to seeing everybody there.
Representative Anderson is recognized for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Governmental Affairs Full Committee will meet in CLOB 406 immediately upon adjournment of Ways and Means. That's CLOB 406. Thank you.
Representative Brad Thomas is recognized for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Cherokee delegation will be meeting at Representative Ballinger's desk upon adjournment. Thank you.
Dean Gerald Green is recognized for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The House Public Safety and Homeland Security Subcommittee will meet today at 3 p.m. in room 506. One bill. If y'all will please come and be there, we'll get out quickly. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Hilton is recognized for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The House Education Policy Subcommittee will be meeting immediately after adjournment in room 515 CLOB. We've got 2 bills under consideration. Thank you.
That concludes our announcements. Thank you, members, for your attention today. Had a good day. Showed great respect for our guests in the House today. Thank you for that. The Majority Leader is recognized for a motion. Mr. Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that this House stand adjourned until 10 a.m. on Friday, March 8th, 2024.
On the motion of the Majority Leader that this House stands adjourned until 10 a.m. Friday, March the 8th, 2024. All those in favor will say aye. All opposed, no. The ayes have it. We are adjourned.